Hello, friends and clients of Walker Gates Vela. I am Jennifer Walker Gates, immigration attorney in Austin, Texas, and San Antonio, Texas, and Monteverde, Costa Rica. And I'm here today to talk to you about the T visa, and specifically how to know if you have been the victim of human trafficking, and what to do about it if you determine that you may have been the victim of human trafficking. Now, this is really important because, unfortunately, our borders in the United States, especially our southern border with Mexico, is an extremely dangerous place. It's become very, very violent. It's become overrun by cartels and organized crime who exploit the desperation of migrants coming to the United States. Many of those migrants have no legal and safe way to enter the United States, and they end up suffering all kinds of different forms of violence and abuse at that border. So some forms of abuse that people suffer at the border can actually lead to a form of lawful status in the United States, and that is in the form of what's called the T visa or trafficking visa. So I'm going to be sharing information about this visa so that anyone who has experienced human trafficking, whether at the border or anywhere else in the world, can have the information that you need to seek help and potentially use that experience, that horrible, terrible experience, for your benefit in the long term, hopefully to obtain some form of secure, safe, stable, lawful status in the United States. So before I get into today's topic, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are going to be posting updates at least once a week. I'm going to be doing a whole series about the T visa and different aspects of it. So please hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any important information, and keep getting our regular updates. So the T visa. Let's talk about what is the T visa. The T visa is much like the U visa, which is a 4-year form of temporary status that can be granted to an individual who has demonstrated that they are a victim of a severe form of trafficking in persons. It is a visa that lasts for 4 years, but you can get after 3 years of having the T visa, or after proving that the investigation and prosecution of your case has been closed, you can apply for lawful permanent residency in the United States. In addition, you don't have to leave the United States to get your permanent residency if you get it through your T visa. And there are waivers available for T visa applicants for everything from prior deportations to unlawful entries, multiple unlawful entries to the United States, false claims to U.S. citizenship. Every single type of crime except for terrorism is waivable technically with the T visa. Now, most individuals who have any kind of violent crime or serious kind of drug trafficking crime will not qualify for a waiver, even though technically they're able to apply for it. However, in many instances of human trafficking, individuals are forced to commit crimes as part of the trafficking scheme. And we've seen this repeatedly, where people are forced to steal, people are forced to sell drugs, they get caught for those things, they get prosecuted for those things. And although they have committed a crime, they have perhaps been convicted of a crime, if it's part and parcel of the trafficking that they suffered, the law recognizes that they are more of a victim than a perpetrator in those cases, and many instances of those kinds of crimes can be waived with a T visa. So it's a really important benefit for anyone who may have had a very difficult experience with immigration in the past and hasn't got any other way to obtain legal status in the United States. T visa can provide an opening and a pathway for victims of trafficking. Now, in order to qualify, you have to meet the eligibility requirements for the T visa. So what are those eligibility requirements? Well, let me tell you, they are, you have to show that you were a victim of a severe form of trafficking in persons, and I will get more into the details of what exactly that means in just a moment. So you have to show that you were a victim of a severe form of trafficking and that you're physically present in the United States on account of that trafficking. In other words, because of that experience, you are now here in the United States and you're seeking status and help in the United States. You have to demonstrate that you have complied with all reasonable requests from law enforcement agencies to investigate and prosecute the traffickers. Now, there is an exception for this if the trafficking occurred when the victim was under 18 years of age, then there is no requirement to demonstrate that you've complied with all reasonable requests from law enforcement. It's also important to note the word reasonable, which appears in the statute for the T visa. If a law enforcement agency makes a request of an individual who is a victim of trafficking that is deemed unreasonable, then this requirement can be waived as well. So we've seen instances where a victim of trafficking was asked to testify against the trafficker, but was not provided any protection from the trafficker, either in or outside the United States, or perhaps the trafficker's network of organized criminals. So in some of those cases, USCIS has agreed with us that that is not reasonable to ask a victim of trafficking after they've suffered the kind of abuse that can occur in these situations to testify and help law enforcement without protection from that individual. You also have to show that you would suffer an extreme hardship involving unusual and severe harm if removed from the United States. So this is kind of an extreme hardship waiver type situation. You do have to show that you would suffer extreme hardship if removed, and you have to show that you're admissible to the United States or that you qualify for a waiver. And the waiver is basically based on humanitarian considerations more than anything else. So the entire T visa program is a humanitarian program through and through. It is designed to really give victims of trafficking the opportunity to, disclose the things that have happened to them, disclose their need and their reasons, the reasons that they're vulnerable if they leave the United States, and ask immigration for help and receive that help. So now, in order to show that you are a victim of a severe form of trafficking in persons, there are some sub-requirements for that requirement as well. So you have to show that a trafficker used either force, fraud, or coercion to recruit you, harbor you, transport, solicit, provide, patronize, or obtain you for a commercial sex act, which is essentially prostitution, forced prostitution, or for purposes of forced labor, which can include involuntary servitude, debt bondage, which is also called peonage, or slavery. Now, so sex trafficking and labor trafficking both fall under the definition of a severe form of trafficking in persons. Now, I want to talk about these sex trafficking and labor trafficking situations because a lot of times smuggling situations, individuals who are smuggled across the border are also victims of trafficking, but they may not realize that that is what has happened. So because our border has become such a dangerous and unlawful place, a lot of times people who are paying a coyote or a smuggler to bring them into the United States get to a place along the route. It may be on the opposite side of the border, or it may be inside the border, where suddenly the trafficker tells them that they owe more money or that they will not be released unless their family pays a ransom or something like that, or that they have to pay off a debt. And if this happens, sometimes people are forced to provide sex acts in order to win or earn their release from the smugglers, or they're forced to work, cooking, cleaning, and doing all kinds of other forms of work in order to win their release from the smuggler. This is human trafficking. This is a person who is not allowing them to leave, is forcibly harboring them in a place, forcing them to use their body to earn with either labor or sex their freedom. Again, that is basically the essence of human trafficking. Recently, the Biden administration has issued a policy update clarifying that many smuggling situations do evolve into trafficking situations. So if a person hires a coyote or a smuggler to bring them into the United States, and that smuggler brings them, they pay the smuggler and are immediately released into the United States, that is classic smuggling. That does not qualify for a T visa. However, in those situations where a smuggler brings a person into the United States and then forcibly holds them, harbors them, and retains them against their will in order to pay off their smuggling debt, forces them to work, or forces them to perform sex acts in order to pay off their smuggler, that is a classic form of human trafficking. That often does qualify for a T visa. Now, the Biden administration has updated the USCIS policy manual to make very clear that just because some situation began as a smuggling situation, which does not qualify for relief, that doesn't mean that it cannot evolve into a trafficking situation. Anytime trafficking occurs, whether it be for a week, a month, a year, or any amount of time whatsoever, anytime a trafficking situation occurs because a person is forced to perform labor or sex in order to win their freedom, that is the basis for seeking help as a victim of a severe form of human trafficking. So, a lot of victims, in my experience, of this kind of human trafficking feel very afraid to come forward, very ashamed about what has happened. They may feel some guilt because they had hired this person to bring them in the United States. They may have known that was illegal. None of that matters, because under no circumstances should an individual be subjected to human trafficking, whether they have attempted to be smuggled into the United States or not. The law recognizes that no victim of human trafficking deserves that treatment. And the law provides relief for individuals who have been trafficked if they meet the other requirements. So I hope that this has been helpful. I really want everyone to be aware that there is help. Oftentimes, especially women and other vulnerable people, children, women, and individuals who are very, just alone and don't have a great network of support, are extremely vulnerable to this kind of treatment as they're coming into the United States. If this has happened to you, there is help available. If you are going to apply for a T visa in the United States, there are actually refugee resettlement agencies who can provide case management services for you. You may be able to qualify for mental health and trauma treatment, and you may be able to qualify for a T visa. So if any of this has happened to you, please feel free to reach out to us at Walker Gates Vela. We will be happy to help you. You can find us at walkergatesvela.com. There on our website, you can click to call us or to schedule an appointment directly on our calendar. But I also want to share the National Trafficking Hotline, National Human Trafficking Hotline information, so that if you are unable to reach us for any reason, or we are not the first resource that you need, you can reach out to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. That number is 1-888-373-7888. I'm going to repeat that. 1-888-373-7888. You can also text the word help or the word info to the number 233-733. Again, that's 233-733. And you can also go to the web and find help at humantraffickinghotline.org. That's humantraffickinghotline.org. Again, we are available to help as well. We are happy to provide this information in any form that can be beneficial for anyone who needs it. And so please reach out to us if we can be helpful. Next week, we're going to be talking more about what is required to win a waiver for the T visa. And we're also going to be talking about U visas some more. So please do not forget to subscribe. Stick with us, learn, apply for benefits, apply for the relief to which you're entitled, and take good care. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.